Everybody, welcome to Brampton City Council. As we begin today's meeting, we would like to acknowledge that we are gathered here today on the treaty territory of the Mississaugas of the New Credit First Nation, and before them, the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Huron, and Wendat. We also acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and other global indigenous people that now call Brampton their home. We are honored to live, work, and enjoy this land. Could you please all rise for the singing of our national anthem, to be followed by a moment of personal reflection. Thank you. I think we should go without a taper every time. You guys sounded really good. So, welcome to our regular council meeting of November 8th, 2017. Nearly everybody's here this morning. I understand Councillor Pelleshi is ill. We wish him a speedy recovery. I remind everyone at today's meeting, please ensure all your cell phones and your electronic devices are turned off or placed in a non-audible mode. Members of the Council, there are a few changes, agenda changes identified on the package in front of you. I'm going to ask Mr. Fay, our City Clerk, to review the changes for today's agenda since its publication last Friday, and the additional materials which were distributed to Council members last evening. Mr. Clerk.
Mayor Jeffrey, members of Council, members of staff, and the public in attendance or watching, these are the changes to today's agenda. In regard to some corrections to the agenda, item 5.1, an announcement regarding Remembrance Day activities. Councillor Medeiros is the council sponsor for that item. Item 5.2, tree lighting and Christmas market. That announcement, Councillor Bowman is the sponsor for that item. In regard to item 8.3, which is a report from staff on a zoning bylaw amendment for Gagnon Walker Domes, in regard to Argo Steels Limited in Ward 4, Schedule A and the key map to the draft bylaw attached as Appendix 1 to that report is presented to members this morning. It was omitted from the agenda as published. In regard to the following listed items that were listed on the agenda are distributed this morning. Item 10.1, minutes from the Committee of Council meeting of last Wednesday, November 1st. The recommendations only were distributed with the agenda. The full minutes are before Council this morning. Item 18.1, a briefing report from the Office of the Chief Administrative Officer regarding various government relations matters, and in particular a presentation regarding the Region Appeal, Council meeting agenda for tomorrow, November 9th, and then provincial news, including Ontario's preparation for the federal cannabis legislation, as well as other federal-related news. Also, I wish to advise Council that in regard to item 8.1, which was a report from Community Services regarding an expropriation of property requirements for the purpose of the Goreway Drive grade separation project between Steeles Avenue at Brandon Gate Drive in Mississauga and Steeles Avenue in Brampton in Ward 8. That report will not be provided for consideration at this time with the public agenda. As well, I wish to point out for councillors that we have had a delegation request from two individuals, Zafar Tariq and Milton Bangu. which would be proposed delegation item 6.1, and this is in regard to Committee of Council minutes, which is item 10.2 on today's agenda, and specifically in regard to recommendation CW 384-2017, which is on page 6 of 11 of your Committee of Council minutes, and it's in regard to recommendations from the committee regarding taxi cab owner renewal fees. Those are the changes.
Thank you, Mr. Fay. Are there any other additions, changes, or deletions to the agenda? Councillor Moore.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I've got three proposed changes. One is that the item 8.1 on the Goreway Drive grade separation be referred to in camera as a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board.
Okay.
The second is a new closed item, again on a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, and there'll be a verbal update from staff on that one.
So that would be 21.1, 21.3, and 21.4
Okay.
in our closed agenda, yeah.
And the final one is for the public session, and I'd like to request that it be moved up to right after the announcements, and it's the Queen Street Corridor Planning Study and related interim control bylaw.
Okay, so that would be part of, it's 16.1, and we'll deal with it after we deal with our last announcement. Okay?
Thank you.
Councillor Medeiros.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, to the City Clerk. So just to clarify, then we don't formally have to add the delegations. They've requested it, so we'll be considering it after approval. Thank you.
Councillor Fortini.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to add delegation Justin Baker. He's the president from the Brampton Youth Hockey, and it's about giving back on the food drive and
So this
for
is-
announcement.
For another announcement, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Miles.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I would like to add an item where I would be requesting a report from the fire chief in regards to fire incidents.
So that would be 16.2. So I'll just put it on that you'll be speaking about fire issues at that point. Okay. Any other changes? Mr. Clerk, I would like to add an item under 7.1, which would be a healthcare motion. Okay. Thank you. So moved by, I think, Councillor Fortini? Is that? And Councillor Bowman, that the agenda for the regular council meeting of November 8th be approved as printed and circulated, or as amended. All those in favor? That's carried. Do any members have a declaration of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act for any matter to be considered on today's agenda? Seeing no one, declare that, Mr. Clerk. We are now ready to move to the next item of public business on today's council agenda. This is item 3, our minutes. We have the following council minutes before us today. The minutes of the City Council of the regular meeting of October 25th. I have a motion moved by Councillor Fortini, seconded by Councillor Bowman, that the minutes be approved as printed and circulated. All those in favor? That's carried. Items listed with an asterisk on today's agenda are considered to be routine and non-controversial. The consent motion is to adopt this matter on today's agenda without the need for a separate discussion on the item unless a member requests a separate discussion. Does any member wish to add an item or remove an item from the consent motion to the agenda? Seeing no one, I have a motion moved by Councillor Bowman, seconded by Councillor Fortini, to approve the consent motion. All those in favor? That's carried. So our first announcement on today's agenda is regarding Remembrance Day events being held on Sunday, November 5th, and those planned for Saturday, November 11th. Laura, from our Manager of Tourism and Special Events and Economic Development and Culture, is here for this announcement. Councillor Medeiros, you're the sponsor. Did you want to speak now or afterwards?
Afterwards.
Okay. Welcome to you and your team.
Good morning, Madam Mayor and Council. May I first request an additional 5 minutes this morning as part of the Remembrance Day announcement?
Council, all in favor of giving additional time? You have the time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Again, good morning. I'm happy to introduce two members of the special events team who will speak to both Remembrance Day and all of the festivities happening next weekend. First, we have Megan Guerra, who is going to go through Remembrance Day, and we're very excited this year to share some new initiatives. So, hand it over to me.
Thank you. So good morning, Madam Mayor, members of council, fellow staff members, and members of the public. My name is Megan Guerra. I'm a senior event specialist with the Festivals and Special Events Office in Economic Development and Culture. I'm very pleased and honored to be here today to share some details of our 2017 Remembrance Day services and parades, as well as two very important initiatives that we launched this year. As you can see on your screens, together with Royal Canadian Legion, branches 15 and 609, 4 services have been planned throughout the city this year. Branch 609 service and parade, as well as our candlelight vigil, took place this past Sunday. And this coming Saturday, on November 11th, we have a sunrise service at 7:55 at the Meadowvale Cemetery Chapel, as well as, of course, our main service happening here at Ken Williams Square at 10:55 a.m. A quick thank you to all of our city staff members that help to make these services possible year after year. As you may have already seen, one of our new initiatives this year is the 38 beautiful banners that are now hanging high on Main Street North and South and Wellington Street. I'd like to extend another quick thank you to our downtown Brampton BIA for allowing us to utilize these lampposts for this project. Each banner features a name of a veteran who has a link to the city of Brampton and their photo. These banners are an incredible tribute and will make a stunning addition to the parade as it makes its way down Main Street on November 11th. The second new initiative that we embarked on this year is our video, which to date has reached over 52,000 people. This video is being used not only to promote Remembrance Day activities, but more importantly, the importance of remembering our veterans and hearing right from them what Remembrance Day means. Both of these new initiatives were created with great passion by staff and will undoubtedly have a tremendous impact on the community by creating awareness of what our veterans have sacrificed for our freedom. I'd like to take a quick moment to acknowledge and thank the super talented Jeff Cowie, Dave Fryer, Peter Morello, Melody Frazier, Kenny Yan, and Rabina Sood, as well as Community Services, who along with myself has worked with Henry Verschin and Sergeant Christopher Banks, who made these initiatives possible. So I'm going to go ahead and play the video.
For me, I would say it's an obligation to remember my friends who passed.
When I got back from Afghanistan, Remembrance Day was really hard for me.
I always think back to the guys that I went to school with that aren't with us anymore.
My squadron lost 83 bombers, 8 or 9 boys in every plane.
To keep their memories ready, to keep their memories alive, to keep their memories with us, we have to remember them.
Knowing the sacrifices that some of my soldiers have made, the ultimate sacrifice in some cases. Remembrance Day it brings it all together for us.
Remembrance Day for me is probably the most important day of the year.
Many things. Everything.
When I went to Afghanistan, going out the gate the first time, I was like, this is it.
Our death toll for the police was around 70 to 100 police officers a month.
They're gone. And I'm here. I'm the lucky ones.
I rushed in to pick him up, and I stepped on the road by the I went up.
These 5 Afghan women had walked by. They unveiled their faces and they walked by and they waved. Them doing that really showed us that we were doing our job and that they didn't have any fear of the Taliban.
Whenever I see young people, I educate them, show them what is the importance of being in services.
In Remembrance Day, we pay tribute to those who stepped up and did what needed to be done.
I think the young folks of today have got to realize that it's not about warmongering, it's not about, anything like that. It's the fact that, there are so many people in the world that are helpless, that need protection.
Give a little thanks, to celebrate them, and to feel for whatever hardships they've gone through, basically because they've done it for these young people so that they can live.
It has to be told on the emotional side so that they understand that there was a reason for it. The reason for it was is basically to protect our families and our country.
I'm really honored. When you get close, I want to shake my hand and say thank you for what you did.
Remembrance Day is about remembering those who signed up and essentially wrote a check to say, I'm giving you everything.
I just want to say I may be the one standing here and taking the credit, but without strategic communications, their staff is just incredible, and what they did here is really just moving. So a special thank you to them, and of course Community Services for helping us install all the banners. That's it, and I hope to see you all on Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you, through the mayors. I think it's really difficult to add on to what we just saw, but certainly I think what the City of Brampton has done to eloquently and respectfully really recognize our sacrifices that soldiers did for this country, but also the connection with the sons of Brampton that got lost as well, and to keep their memories. And so it's really a truly special moment. And coupled with the fact that members of council at Seniors Council, we heard of a story of a local business person who lost her son also in Somalia. So that really, I think, in helping this community heal and really recognizing the sacrifices we've made, I think the City of Brampton really outdid itself this year. And thank you to staff and thank you to everybody. But it's really allowed us to, during a somber moment, recognize the sacrifices. Thank you.
I'll just close with saying thank you, team. You did a great job. I think you've really raised the bar between the banners and the video. I think this November 11th will be even, I think, one of our best ones. So thank you very much. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you on the 11th. Thank you very much. Our next announcement is on today's agenda is regarding our tree lighting event, which is Friday, November 17th, and the Christmas market from Friday, September 17th to Sunday, November 19th. Laura is here again for this announcement, and I believe Councillor Bowman, you're the sponsor. You'll speak afterwards. I just want to say I got my first Christmas card today. I thought it was further away, so clearly I have to get going. So welcome, Laura.
Good morning again, Madam Mayor and members of council. Very pleased, as I was with the last announcement, to introduce Kimberly Marquis, who is again one of the members of our special events team. The entire team has been working very hard to make next weekend, November 17th through 19th, a great start to the holiday season here in Brampton. And Kimberly is going to give us some details of what's happening.
Okay. Good morning, Mayor Jeffrey, members of council, my fellow colleagues, and members of the public. I'm thrilled to be announcing Christmas in Brampton from November 17th to the 19th. To kick off the season, we have the 17th annual Christmas tree lighting event from 6 to 8 p.m. in Ken Willen Square, Gage Park, Wellington Street, and City Hall atrium. Along with illuminating the 60-foot spruce tree, the event will include a multitude of fun activities, great family entertainment, free snacks, and a dazzling display of winter lights. The official tree lighting ceremony will take place at 6:20 p.m. sharp. This event also marks the beginning of our holiday food drive and the Toys for Tots campaign. Help out by bringing a non-perishable food item or an unwrapped toy to the front of City Hall. Also starting on November 17th and continuing to the duration of the weekend is the newly expanded Christmas market. With over 30 vendors, visitors can shop within Garden Square, Daily Times Square, the Conservatory for all their handmade, one-of-a-kind Christmas gifts. Throughout the weekend in Garden Square, catch up on your favorite Christmas movies on the LED screen, and on Sunday, bring your kids and your pets for photos with Santa and Mrs. Claus. If you need a break, cozy up with hot chocolate and a book in our warming station in Daily Times Square. Don't forget to end your shopping in the Conservatory and take your picture with our famous My Brampton sign in the atrium. For more information and road closures, please visit our website. We're very excited about Christmas in Brampton, and we hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. Councillor Bowman?
Thank you very much, through you, Madam Mayor. This is going to be great again. You guys always put on a fantastic show. I know people from out of town who come for the Christmas tree lighting and for the Christmas market. Now that it's expanded this year, it's going to be really, really great down there. Christmas movies, are you going to have The Grinch this year?
I think so.
The Grinch.
Take that into consideration.
For those of you who are my age, that's over 50 years old, that cartoon. So, Harry, you're 50 years old. So, and, it's amazing to see the activity down here, the fire pits, the marshmallow roasting, and the activities that go on in Ken Willen Square. And I think most of council shows up for the tree lighting. It's a great event, and I'm hoping it's not too cold or snowy this year, but it really wouldn't hurt the atmosphere anyway. So thank you and your team for putting on this fantastic event in the city. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Our next announcement on today's agenda is regarding the Santa Claus Parade on November 18th. John Hayes, Honorary Chair of the Brampton Santa Claus Parade Committee, is here today for this announcement. Councillor Gibson, you are the council sponsor. Did you want to speak now or afterwards? Yeah.
I don't think I need to speak other than to say I'm very proud to be able to sponsor this every year. The parade starts, John, as you know, in Council Moore's in my ward, and we've been working together for a long time to put this together. So I'm very proud of the parade. I'm very proud of your involvement, John. You've been doing this for a long time. Maybe you can tell us how long this has been going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Grant. I remember very fondly the fight we had to put the first night parade on. And you and I went and visited the residents on Sproul. Wow. Anyway, Madam Mayor, City Councilors, Commissioners, and citizens of Brampton, my name is John Hayes, and I have the wonderful distinction of being the Honorary Chairman, and we thank you for giving us this opportunity to announce the upcoming Brampton Board of Trade Santa Claus Parade. To assist us, we have invited the big guy himself, Santa Claus.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas! Ho, ho, ho! Hello, everyone. How are you? Hello, hello. How is everybody? You're all being good.
Under the leadership of our chair, Barbara Shembry, with the assistance of Chris Rumsey and Richard Beagle, we bring to you the 22nd night parade on Saturday, November 18th at 5 p.m. And I stress 5 p.m. because we like to start on time. According to Rogers TV, over 5 million viewers have watched the live coverage and reruns of the first 21 night parades on their community TV channel. In addition, at the curb, we have shared this parade with between 3 and 4 million people, children, parents, grandparents, and others who wanted to participate in the experience of Santa on Main Street. The 22nd Brampton Board of Trade Santa Claus Parade comes through the generous support of two major sponsors, 407 ETR and the Rotary Club of Brampton, and in partnership with the City of Brampton and the Peel Regional Police. The parade is successful because of the community involvement of the volunteers who design and decorate their floats, the parade marshals who organize the entries on parade day, the students who walk down the parade route in costume, the marchers, the bands, and of course the imagination of the children on the parade route. I can tell you from personal experience, there is no greater feedback than to walk down the parade route and look at the faces of those kids and say, good Lord, I helped put that there. And it's just, to participate in this thing, it's a thrill of a lifetime to do it once. I've done it, actually been part of the parade for 31 years and been on the executive for, this will be my 23rd year, on the executive of the parade. Every year, students amass in excess of 2,000 community service hours. The Progress Club food drive picks up a couple of tons of food for the food banks into the city. The Kiwanis Celebrity Clowns contribute thousands of dollars towards the training of service dogs. And the houses on the parade route participate in a house decoration competition, all of which are side benefits to our community because of the event. In 2017, we were added 6 new entries, 2 new bands, and refurbished the lit balloons that come down the parade route. Remember, Saturday, November 18th, 5 p.m., Main Street, Brampton, Ontario. I welcome any questions that you may wish to ask.
I think my council are too busy telling Santa that they've been good, and he's assuring them that he knows exactly if they've been bad or good. So some people are getting coal, is what I'm hearing back here. But I just want to say on behalf of council, thank you for your leadership on this issue. I know that you do, this is a labor of love for you, but thank you. Thank you very much. And to all your elves, these parades don't come together without a lot of hands making this event work the day of and the months and months before. So thank you very much on behalf of my council. We really appreciate the work that you do.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I shall pass your greetings on to the council or the committee.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate that very much.
And I know a majority of us will be there, and I'll be there with Buddy the Elf. So Santa and I had some pictures taken with Buddy last year, and Buddy was more popular than many people on that parade route, which was surprising.
Oh, okay.
So I don't think we have any more questions, comments.
I think Santa's giving the
He's making
commissioners
his rounds.
a sugar rush.
Yeah, we need that.
Everybody stay awake. Have your sugar. However, but anyway, as you know, you're all invited to participate. Just make sure that we know who's coming, so we make sure that there are vehicles there to help people.
And you've ordered good weather. Just a little smattering of snow.
I hope so. Yeah, apparently they tell me that the honorary chairman is responsible for the weather, so I got probably the toughest job of all. But we've had some good ones.
Yes, last year was good. The weather was crisp, but it was good. It was dry, especially for the little ones waiting along the route.
Yeah, well, that's the key thing, is to give the young ones a chance to do this and to watch it. As I say, it's awesome to be on the route. And I had the good fortune one year to step out onto the route just as Santa pulled onto Main Street off of Sproul, and there was a young fella standing walking down at the left front quarter of the float, and he went absolute panic because as he walked out onto the street, the entire curb rose to their feet. And I said, relax, it's not you, it's him. And here he is.
So welcome, Santa.
Welcome.
Nice to see you again.
It's nice to see you all again.
just a couple of things. I think 200 days today is the next election. You guys better get your acts together, okay? And everybody behave, Dougie. Actually, Santa called from the North Pole yesterday and spoke to Doug. He was in his office, which was a miracle. And I said to him a couple of things. Please make sure you have a Christmas tie on, which he did. I asked him to bring my favorite beverage, which he did. And the third and most important thing, you'd all should be thanking me, I asked him to have a shower. So everything was done very appropriately. And a couple of things this year is really, really neat. You know the parade is a week Saturday, 5 p.m. night parade. Starts at Spurl Drive and goes all the way down to Charlotte. All sorts of people come out to see Santa. Most of you guys come out to see Santa too, which is great. But there's a couple of special events now. For the first time ever, the next day at the Rose Garden, Santa will be there, courtesy of the city of Brampton. I'm going to be doing pictures with pets, cats, dogs, horses. I don't care. Bring them all. Santa will take pictures. And for the first time, Mrs. Claus will be with Santa at several events this year. We're doing a breakfast at Wendell Clark's. We're doing a breakfast at the new Sunset. We're all over the city on the weekends. We're at Chincoosy Park. We're at Casey Campbell. We're everywhere. So get into the festive season. 47 more sleeps. Make sure you pay attention. Be good. Drive carefully out there. The new fire chief, I just met him. He's a great guy. I've heard lots of nice things about him. The police chief, she's going to be at the parade. Everybody come, have a good time. I can't go to the tree lighting ceremony. Apparently I distract people. But anyways, I want you all to have a really, really good time. We'll see you at the parade. And the most important thing, Merry Christmas to all. Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
It's hard to get back to the agenda after a visit from Santa. Our next announcement on today's agenda is regarding the Municipal Engineers Association workshop and the annual general meeting being held November 21st to the 24th in the city of Brampton. Jane Holmes, the Director of Capital Works, Public Works and Engineering, is here for this announcement. Councillor Wellens is the council sponsor. Do you wish to speak now or afterwards? Jane, I know you're excited about this, and this is a first for Brampton. Well done, and we look forward to your presentation.
Perfect. So, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. There's a reason why Santa Claus is at the end of the parade. He's a hard act to follow, so but we're pretty excited about this conference. We hope you will be too. So today we're here to just let you know about the Municipal Engineers Association workshop and AGM that's taking place in Brampton between November the 21st and 24th. It's going to be taking place at the Courtyard Marriott, which is at the 410 and Steeles, and it's appropriately themed Thinking Bigger. Just to tell you a little bit about the MEA, we are an association of professional engineers that work in the field of municipal engineering. And the association does provide unity and focus by facilitating the sharing of knowledge and information amongst people who work in our field. So 135 municipalities are represented, and currently the membership sits at just over 800 members. Just to give some highlights on the program, as Madam Mayor mentioned, this is the first time it's going to be held in Brampton, so we're very happy about that. It's the 58th conference for the MEA. We are having opening remarks by our CAO, Harry Schlang, and on Wednesday, City of Brampton is hosting the Mayor's Luncheon, and we're very happy to have Madam Mayor speaking at that conference. On Wednesday night, we're inviting our delegates to have a night on the town, so we're having a tour of PAMA, a tour of the Rose Theatre, and then we're inviting our delegates to just select some of the restaurants that are in our downtown core. We thank the BIA for their help in that. They've helped get some arrangements made for that evening. We also do have our East-West Hockey Classic that's going to be held at Cassie Campbell Community Center. We're very pleased to have Councillor Willens as our celebrity puck dropper. There's always a bit of controversy around the hockey game, so it's well worth watching, just not your normal pickup game. We also have a couple of tours planned for the Brampton Chrysler plant, the Williams Parkway Operations Center in Gore Meadows, and another tour for Mount Pleasant Village, Sandalwood Transit Parkway, and again in our historic downtown. Thursday night is usually the highlight of the conference. We'll be having our keynote speaker. We're very pleased to announce Larry Beasley will be speaking at that, just talking about our journey at Brampton on how we're thinking bigger and thinking differently about things. Some of the sessions and topics, of course, we're going to have our City of Brampton Game Changers highlighted. We'll also be doing a lot of partnership presentations with the different agencies, Region of Peel, the conservation authorities. Sustainability is a big topic for our profession, asset management, but also climate change and low-impact development. Upcoming legislation such as soil management, NEMEA updates. We're also going to have some lessons learned of things that just happened. So one of the presentations is going to be on the Hickory Drive house explosion. So how do we help our residents when things happen that aren't planned for? And then, of course, the standard techie talk. So we're going to have some updates from the MTO, the OPS, and also with the PEO Peak program that is new to our profession this year. So even though Brampton is hosting the conference, the MEA actually funds the conference, and they do rely on sponsorship. We are happy to mention that we have almost doubled our sponsorship goal. This is just some of the companies that have come forward and stepped up to help us with our conference this year, and they'll be taking part. So just on behalf of our sponsor, Joe Patushka, and my co-chairs, Kim Kosalak and Mike Donnelly, we're very excited about this conference. Our profession is changing. The way we think, the way we look at things is changing in terms of what our municipalities have to deal with going forward and into the future. And Brampton is leading the way. So we're very happy that we're able to showcase all the wonderful things we're doing. And if you do have a chance to visit us, that would be great. I think you'll be really proud of the way we're showcasing our city. Thank you.
You want to speak?
Back. Thank you, Jane. And I'm honored to be able to drop the puck at the hockey game. I'm hoping there's some good contact out there. And I'll be cheering. I'll wear my Senators jersey, make sure that the team know. But thanks again. This is very exciting for Brampton, being the first time for having these people, have the Engineers Association here. It's great, especially with what's going on in Brampton right now, with the changes we're having with the planning vision and everything else like that. So it's great, and I look forward to having them here. It's going to be great. Thanks.
Thanks for your leadership. I look forward to seeing what the team is able to pull off. It'll be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item of business is 5.5. This is the announcement by Councillor Fortini with regards to the Gift of Giving Back food drive. Councillor Fortini?
Justin's coming up.
Do you want to announcement? And Justin Baker. Yep. The president of the Brampton Youth Hockey. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council, special guests. Like everybody said, I'm honored and to be the leader of over 2,000 plus of our Brampton youth in Brampton Hockey as the president. But one of the things that I'm very proud of is I also sit on as the chair of what we call the Gift of Giving Back Brampton. Just to give you, 2 years ago I stood before you after our first campaign. This is our third annual campaign in regards to this. And 2 years ago I stood in front of you and told you a little bit about it, but I'll give you a brief synopsis of what that is. The Gift of Giving Back started 12 years ago in Burlington by the Burlington Eagles Hockey Club and by a beautiful lady by the name of Jean Longfield. And their dedication to this program has been enough to inspire not only just Brampton, but also Oakville as well, to put those campaigns in amongst their youth as well. And what the Gift of Giving Back is we take our 2,000 plus youth and we encourage and engage them and support them by putting them out into the community to give back to those that are less fortunate. There are 1 in 5 kids in every school that go hungry every day. So we call the campaign Kids Feeding Kids. So as you may or may not know already, if you've been out and about, the kids are out and about and they're at grocery stores and they're handing out blue bags just like this. And they're handing out the bags and they're asking people to donate as little or as much as possible to our campaign to help us give back to our beneficiaries, which happen to be all Brampton beneficiaries. Everything that we do here stays within the city of Brampton. Salvation Army, Regeneration Outreach, St. Louis Outreach, St. Andrew's Food Bank, the Knights Table, Bethel Hospice, and Cardinal Léger Secondary School. We have our partners, our special partners, our Cardinal Léger Secondary Schools, where we host our event, the Brampton Beast, the Brampton Bombers Junior B Hockey Club, the Brampton Fire Department, the City of Brampton. And with that being the City of Brampton, I need to give very special thanks to Councillor Jeff Bowman and Councillor Doug Willens for your continued support, your boots on the ground, and your hands-on approach with working with us and helping us get through all the logistics and stuff that we need to do for this campaign. And of course to Pat Fortini for the help with logistics and driving the forklift to load the food at the end of the campaign on the Saturday. So thank you both, all three of you, very, very much. So like I said, our event takes place November 21st to the 24th at Cardinal Léger Secondary School between the hours of 6 and 10 p.m. We have our closing ceremonies on November 24th, 2017 at 7 p.m. That is when I would like to invite each and every one of you, anybody here in the City of Brampton, to attend to see what these kids are doing. It's a great event. And to give you some kind of an idea, when I stood before you 2 years ago, I was very, very proud to announce that we raised over 74,000 pounds of food for those in need in Brampton. In our second year of campaign, we did over 95,000 pounds. Going into this year, I have no idea what we're going to do, but these kids tend to surprise me every year, so I think it's going to be great. But just to give you an idea of where they're at, Oakville this year did 44,000 pounds, and Burlington did 422,000 pounds. And in support of their beneficiaries. So we're very proud to be a part of this organization and bringing this to Brampton for our third year. So one of the things that I do want to do, if I may, and excuse me for not knowing the protocol, but I do have a gift from Madam Mayor, and myself and the council, the rest of the committee have an award for Madam Mayor, as we would like to appoint you the honorary chair for 2017 for the Gift of Giving Back campaign, in hopes that we can see you come out and visit us on one of the 4 days, especially if we could on the 24th. So again, just in closing, I just want to point out that it is the Brampton hockey kids that are out doing this, and that they're doing this, and they do it very, very well, I might add, and I'm very, very proud of them. 2 years from now is when we really want to kind of meet get to the over top of the hill, because in 2 years it'll be our 5th year of this campaign, and it'll also be Brampton Hockey's 75th anniversary, which I will come before you again a little later to talk about a little bit more, but that's a huge milestone. And when I see people like Bill Burrell being honored by the City of Brampton for the things that he's done, I can't thank him enough for the things that he's done for hockey as well. We also, just quickly, with the hometown hockey coming in March 10th and 11th, we're actually in talks with the committee as well of running a second Gift of Giving Back campaign at the hometown hockey event, where we're going to attempt to fill the rink, which is going to be the hockey rink that's going to be constructed downtown Brampton, with the support of Oakville and Burlington hockey clubs, as well as, I hope, as the Brampton Beast, the Brampton Bombers, the Brampton Canadettes, and the Sledge Hockey and the Ball Hockey Associations. So we're really looking forward to that, and hopefully we can give you an update on that as we go forward with those negotiations, with those meetings starting tomorrow. And I thank you all for your time. And I hope to see you all sometime between the 21st and 24th at Cardinal Léger Secondary School. Thank you.
Councillor Fortini.
Yes. Thank you, Justin, and thank to everyone who does the hard work. And I remember last year I was there, filled up 2 trailers, tractor trailers, like 53-footers. And that was 95,000 pounds, so I'm hoping maybe this year we get longer, and I'm more glad to come back and help as much as we can. And we'd like to thank Councillor Bowman's wife for bringing me a nice coffee at 7 o'clock in the morning. That morning was kind of chilly, but we got it done by 2 o'clock.
It was great.
So I'm happy to be back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Miles?
Thank you very much. Madam Mayor, Justin.
Yes.
It's amazing the work that you've done on this. I just wanted to thank you. When Brampton's United Way campaign went to the Knights Table. One of the things that struck me, and it stayed with me, is that one of the things that they have in greatest shortage for families is diapers. Diapers for children from 0 to 2 years old. So I don't know if there's a way through your campaign of just getting that word out. I mean, we all think of giving food, but a lot of the people that are going to our food banks are families with young children, and there's an extreme shortage of diapers. So I just thought I'd take this opportunity.
Absolutely, and you bring that up. It's funny. It's one of the top 16 items that is handed out to the teams that they asked to supply. So yes, baby food is another one, and a lot of teams focus on that as well. So it's not always so much about the weight; it's about the giving back, right?
Lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Justin, for your leadership. Thank you, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Williams, I can't believe you let Councillor Bertini operate heavy machinery, but anyway. Thank you. I look forward to working with you and exceeding your goals. Sorry? Oh, Councillor Williams, did you want to speak?
Just quickly. Yeah, thank you, Justin, for coming in. What's really important, what I learned at this Gift of Giving Back, is not just about the people that are receiving the food, it's the education that your hockey players get about the people that are actually in need. That there's probably kids on their team that don't eat a regular meal, so that's important that you've instilled that in the kids of our community, because that's building the community. So thank you very much.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you. Council, our next item on our agenda is going to be 16.1. This is the interim control bylaw placed on the agenda by Councillor Moore. We're just moving the agenda around a little bit today. It's moved by Councillor Moore, seconded by Councillor Gibson. And do you want me to read it into the record, Mr. Clerk? I think it's on the screen. And it's a report from our Central Area Planner with regards to the proposed interim control bylaw for Queen Street between Etobicoke Creek and Highway 410, Wards 1 and 3. It's moved by Councillor Moore, seconded by Councillor Gibson. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. And our next item is the added delegations, 6.1, Mr. Safdar Tariq and Mr. Milton Bangu. This is regarding item 10.2, the Committee of Council minutes of November 1st. And it's with regards to the recommendation CW 384, 2017. Welcome.
Good morning, Madam Mayor, dear councillors, and also staff members. My name is Zafar Tariq. I am a member of the Taxi Cab Advisory Committee, and I am also driving a cab here in Brampton 23 years. We usually communicate with you through the suggestion, but today I had to come because the topic was so hot that they were increasing the fees, and my other members, they called me and said, go and present us over there. So you see that advisory committee is working. That's why you don't see any people sitting here and trying to express their views. So they have, Madam Mayor, they are requesting that the City of Brampton exempt the taxi industry from annual CPI increases in taxi plate license fee. The reason is because the industry is totally different from other industries. Here in taxi industry, our meter rate, which is our income, it is controlled by the city and it is regulated by the City of Brampton. Last time the meter rate was increased about 5 years ago, and license fee, on the other hand, is going every year up and up and up. Our industry is totally different from other industries like limousines and like food trucks, and then the driver training schools, because when you increase their fees, the next day they can raise $1 or $2 and they can make up their fees. But we cannot raise up our fees because your council members have to approve the meter rate and then that will be increased. That's why you can judge that how many members sitting here has received the raises in last 5 years, but we have not received anything. Moreover, it has to be allowed by the council of members. In short, it is not in the benefit of the public as well as the taxi industry to raise the meter every year. Dear members, you have given us a piece of bread in form of our income, but that piece of bread is not increasing in last 5 years. But on the other hand, that piece which belongs to your side, the fees of licensing fee is increasing every year, that portion. So our slice is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Our families are getting affected by this. So it is my request that taxi license fee for taxi industry be held constant, except in times when council decides to increase the meter rate. So when our meter rate is increased, then the license fee should be also increased. This will ensure that all the parties involved are treated fairly, including the city of Brampton and the public and the taxi advisory committee, not the taxi members. So my conclusion is, Your Honor, that pass a motion, number 1, not to increase the taxi license fee at the moment from $410 to $450, which next year then CPI will increase another few dollars, and it will keep on increasing because there are ride-sharing companies. They are coming, and our meter is not going to be increasing in the next few years because public don't want it even. They don't want to pay the extra monies. So one motion is just not to increase taxi plate license fee at this moment from $410 to $450. And the second is taxi plate license fee be exempt from annual CPI increases. Instead, it should be bound with the meter increases. When the meter is increased, the license fees should be increased. Thank you. And if anybody has any question from our council members, Madam Mayor, I'm most happy to answer it.
I have speakers on the board, but I think what I'm going to do is let the delegations all speak first. I think that we'll go that route. So, Mr. Bangu.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Mayor, all the council members. My name is Milton Bangu. I'm the manager of Brampton Family Quick Cab. As Mrs. Zafar mostly covered my story, I don't want to waste your time more. But just letting you know, the taxi industry today is suffering from big ride-sharing, illegal ride-sharing programs, and we guys are going through a very hard time. I just request all the council members, please don't increase, put more burden on us. That's it. Thank you very much. I'll be here if there are any questions there.
Okay. So just for clarification, we are talking about CW 384, which is with regards to the renewal fee, right?
That's right.
Okay. Councillor Medeiros.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I guess
Can I ask, does anybody on the list have questions of the delegations? Okay, all right. So I'll go through my list. Councillor Medeiros.
Oh, no, I just wanted to move forward the minutes, but I'll allow the questions by Councillor Spovieri.
Okay. Councillor Spovieri.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the delegation. You indicated that the illegal ride sharing program is still going strong here in Brampton, even though council has not supported Uber to be here.
That's right, Councillor John. It's running in Brampton very fast and freely, I will say.
So is it just Uber, or is there others that are?
No, just right now it's Uber.
Only Uber.
Yes.
There's no others.
To me, I don't know. Just Uber is running, that I know.
And how much business do you think that they're taking away from the taxi?
I will say it's going to affect us in the morning time, around 15 to 20% of the business in the morning and in the evening, because mostly Uber drivers, they are part-time drivers.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I have no more questions for the delegation. I do have questions, staff.
So maybe what we'll do is we'll get all the questions done for the delegations, and then we'll just deal with it so it's not back and forth.
Sure.
Okay. Councillor
Thank you.
Fortini. You can get back on the board afterwards. Councillor Fortini.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Like question is to staff also, just to
Okay.
move the minutes up ahead, so Councilor Scrivener.
So Councillor Fortini, would you move a receipt of the two delegations?
Yes, I will.
And Councillor Sproverio, you'll second that? All those in favor of receipt of the delegations? Thank you. So, Councillor Fortini, you have questions of staff?
Yeah, I just, I guess, I'd like to put, I don't know if I have to do it now or wait for the minutes to put the motion back on the floor, to keep it at 410, to have no increase. And I'd like to bring the...
So I think, Mr. Clerk, you can bring that forward right now?
Bring the
Okay.
minutes forward.
Clerk is nodding, so you can do that.
Okay.
So this is the item on 10.2.6, which is with regards to the renewal fee. Is that the one?
Well, both motions, just those two of them.
The renewal fee and the CPI, so
Yes.
that would be CW 385. Do you want to
Yes.
speak about both of those motions?
Yeah, just to keep it as is at the 410, not to have the increase. And the CPI. Yeah, recorded vote again, please.
So through you, Madam Mayor, I believe what Councillor Fortini is moving is essentially striking out CW 384 2017 and replacing it with the motion that lost at committee, which is CW 383 2017, to not increase the fee.
I think he is also just, I believe I heard him say that he also doesn't want the CPI to be applied to taxi
That's
license
right.
fee. Is that right?
Yes.
So that would be
Both
also
parts of the
part of
motion.
this motion.
So that would be taking a vote on CW 385 2017, which also lost at committee, yes.
So you'll give me the other motion when we deal with this one?
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll go through my speakers list, and then we'll get back to the motions that you've moved. Councillor Sprovieri?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A question to staff, regarding the illegal operation of Uber here in Brampton. The delegation is claiming that they're still active and they're taking away roughly 15-20% of their business. Is that something staff can confirm through the chair, or do we know that they are active, and are we city still trying to keep them under control or stop their business here, because there's no support from this council for them to be here?
Through the chair, staff are continuing to work on mitigating any illegal ride sharing, not just Uber, there are others that could potentially be active. We cannot necessarily confirm the numbers from the delegate of 15 to 20%. I don't know that anyone can do that, given that we're unclear as to the volume of ride sharing that actually is transpiring in the city. It continues to be illegal, and we continue to enforce that direction, and where plausible and appropriate, we are taking our actions to apply charges, and some of those are before the courts, some have already gone through with those charges, and other ones are still pending, and prosecution's unit is working closely with our enforcement unit to bring those forward.
And through the chair, the ones that have been prosecuted, what sort of penalties are they getting?
Through the chair, I believe it's $500 each.
Okay, and through the chair, if they come back and keep doing the business, is there a greater penalty? Has anyone been caught the second or third time, or the ones that are caught once, they sort of disappear?
There is greater span for or a greater amount for the fee fine that can be applied. I think it goes up towards 10,000, I believe. So, first offense at this point, some of those charges that were enforced were 500. If they were caught again and convicted again, those fines would likely be higher, but that would be in the control of the JP, who would preside over that case to determine.
And through the chair, do you have the numbers of how many have been charged since council decided not to allow them here?
to the mayor, to the councillor. There's been 22 charges before the courts, 3 convictions, and we're awaiting more. We've had 47 rides that we've done as well with the with Uber for the charges.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam. I do have some comments. Maybe Councillor Moore has questions, so I'll come back again for comments.
Councillor Moore? Oops, I think I knocked you off the board.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to ask the clerk to put up the original, thank you. One of the difficulties with dealing with this issue the way we are is that there was a package of recommendations that were before committee and passed. There was only one part of this that was sent back to staff, and now we're trying to deal with that separately, when in fact it's an entire package, and that's why I asked for this to be put up. Staff are in the middle of developing their budget. We asked the questions at committee of what the budget impact was, but they're formulating their budgets based on costs and projected revenues from things like services that we provide for not just the taxi cab industry, but right across the corporation. So I asked that this to be put up because I'm trying to get a handle on, I guess, to both the delegations, but to staff as well. When I look at, a taxi cab accessible cab owner transfer, a reduction of $3,300 on an annual basis. I look at the $120 fee for the change of vehicle being eliminated. What I looked at, and I don't think I'm wrong, was an overall package that appeared to be fair and reasonable and reflected the cost to the municipality. So the problem I have is dealing with one aspect of this when it was a package of bylaw licensing fees that I believe staff brought forward that they believed was fair and reasonable. So it's there for everybody to see. So please make your decision when you vote on this based on the entire package, because I think the only fair and reasonable way to deal with this is to open up the entire thing and debate it all as a package. Thank you.
Councillor Spovieri?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. And I appreciate Councillor Moore raising this package issue, but when you look at this change of fees, the main changes when there's a transfer of the accessible taxi transfer, and obviously that's there because we know that the people who own accessible taxis for people with disabilities, it's a hard business, and to encourage the industry to keep that business going and provide that service, it's a good incentive to reduce the fees. So really, that is really a benefit to the community rather than really a big benefit to the industry. The other change of vehicles, no fees. Well, that occurs every 4 or 5 years, so that's not a big issue. When you look at the rest of the lines there, they're all increased, and that's what really affects the industry the most. Those other four lines where there's a substantial increase in. So I think this is what really we have to break it down and see where the benefit is, who benefits, and by how much. So based on the one that's the most affected the whole industry is, of course, the renewal fees, and I don't know how often the renewal fees happen. Is it yearly? Just for clarification, Is that a yearly fee, or is that, how often does that happen?
Approximately 90 happen per year, 90, through the chair.
Just for clarification.
Just for clarification, the renewal fee is a yearly fee.
Okay.
The changes of vehicles are approximately 90 a year.
Okay.
And the transfer fee change is actually a transfer of both taxis and accessible taxi cabs, not just accessible taxi cabs. And it may result in more transfers occurring, and it's a lower price. It didn't more impact for the owner selling the plate, in that he is able to sell it for a lower price. He sell it for a higher price, and the buyer purchase it for a lower price.
I see. Thank you.
The fee wise.
Okay, thank you for that. So given this information, and I think that the key here is that, and what the industry is asking, that when there's a fare increase for a meter increase, they feel that it would be fair to also increase the renewal fees also. And I sympathize with that. I think that's a fair request, and it's a fair way of doing business. So whenever there's an increase in the meter fare, then it's fair that you increase the renewal. So I totally support what they're asking for, and I will second Councillor Vertini's motion, Madam Mayor, to...
It's two motions. Are you doing both? Are you doing the CPI and
certainly.
the...
Be
Yes?
happy to.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Dillon.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The first line there, taxi cab accessible, taxi cab order, the transfer that takes place, the price is dropping from $36.92 to, who am I speaking to, James? To $3.58. How often does...
So just to remind council, that decision has been made.
No, I understand
so
that.
if council wishes to debate it again, they need to reopen its decision.
No, I'm just getting some clarification.
Thank you.
How often does that transfer take place? Is that something that happens often?
On average, we receive about 14 to 21 a year.
So that's when somebody just gives their plate to somebody, transfers it over? Is that what happens?
The transfer involves the sale of the plate to another individual for anywhere of a market value of that plate. So anywhere between $50,000 to $100,000. The owner is receiving from the person that they're transferring it to, and the transfer fee is paid by the individual who is receiving the plate and is now applying for a new license with us.
Right, and so the renewal, every plate owner pays that renewal fee, is that correct? So there's no questions about that. If you have a plate, you're gonna get your plate, your renewal done for $4.10, is that correct?
That's correct. Every owner has to renew the fee along with their driver's license fee each year.
So there's a substantial dip or drop from the current fee to the proposed fee for the transfer. Since this is much more often, I don't know, maybe you can nod your head yes or no. If the $4.10 to $40 difference that it's increasing, can that not be transferred into the cost be transferred into the transfer fee? Because you're already having a significant cut in how much it costs. So just to stay neutral, so there's no loss to the city, because that happens much less often, whereas every single plate owner is going to be paying the proposed $4.50. Is that something that could work? So those people who are transferring their fees, which is not that often, they could, I guess, absorb that $40 cost for every single plate. And like, what would that cost be for them to do that on average? So if you're talking about the total, keeping it at $4.10, whatever the city's losing, divided and to how many number of plates that are transferred each year, what would the added cost be to that? What would it go from 358 to what?
Through the mayor, I wouldn't have the numbers right at this point. I do know that the loss of the change of vehicle fee was $11,000. The change from the transfer fee from $36.92 to $358 was $47,000 for a total of $58,000 that we'd be losing if it stayed status quo. What we're proposing is to offset $11,000 through the transfer fee, through the renewal fee, which is a fixed number. We have 370 taxi plates in the city of Brampton. We know that we're going to receive at least $40 on each of those 370 taxi cab plates next year. And
through the chair, if I can add just quick back of the envelope based on Councillor Dillon's request, to make that offset, the proposed $358, the change from $36.92 to $358, that $358 would have to go to approximately $1,100 or $1,200 to make that difference up.
Does the city have an opinion on whether there should be more transfers or less transfers, or does the city doesn't really matter to the city? Do we want? Does it matter that somebody sells their plate or not? Do we want to see people hanging on to the plates? Like, if you can explain. So if you're going to go from 300 to 1,100, does it make a difference to the city where there's a lot of plates being transferred in terms of the service that's being offered?
So I don't know that this relates actually to the motions on the floor, and I think we're straying beyond what is on the table right now, and I appreciate you're trying to find a solution.
No, what I'm trying to do is to see if there's a benefit in having the $40 for the renewal absorbed into
And I think you heard what the financial cost would be, and you've heard staff give you the answer. It's up to you to make that decision.
No, but I'm saying in terms of the city, James, you guys, does it, just a yes or no?
I think I've ruled on it. It doesn't relate to the motions in front of me. So you got the answer as to what the impact would be, and that's the answer that he can give you now.
No, but they could state their opinion, though, if
I
that's something
appreciate
that
he
the city...
could, but that's not what's before me right now. I have to keep you to what is before us right now. Two motions, you got the answers with regards to what financial impact there would be. Okay? Councillor Fortini.
Clarification, James. On taxi accessibility, that fee there, the proposed fee, the $358, is that comparable to other municipalities? Or?
through the chair, yes, it is comparable to other municipalities.
Okay, so actually we dropped it from $3,692, which other municipalities never had that fee in the past at that height.
The benchmarks that we did, none of the municipalities had as high of a fee as that. They did have fees in around the $1,500 mark when all was said and done.
So we were a lot higher. So I'm going to keep the motion the way it is then, because we already took a lot of money in the past, a lot more over doubled compared to other municipalities.
Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to take the question one step further, James.
Just when you got comfortable.
Sorry. I think I know the answer because we did ask it at the time. Are all of these proposed fees comparable to our neighboring and other municipalities?
Through the chair, yes, they are.
Thank you. My second question is, don't go away. Because the delegate spoke to the fare meter increase, there hasn't been an increase in 5 years. What's the process for increasing that? I mean, hearing clearly from the industry that they don't want the fare increased because it makes them less competitive in the context of the ride-sharing vehicles that are out there. But what is the process that's used? Because I can appreciate their concern, but by not increasing the fare, the city is absorbing the increased costs. So it's really just a shift of who pays. And, you know, while I think we all recognize, I certainly do, the challenges that the taxi industry is going through. I think we've all acknowledged that and tried to be, you know, sympathetic to that. But at the same time, the taxpayers generally cannot continue to absorb where there is an answer to the problem. So if you could maybe speak to the process.
Through the chair, through the bylaw, the meter rates are to be looked at on a yearly basis, brought to the TAC for consideration. In 2011, staff did bring forward a recommendation to have the meter rate increased by the CPI on a yearly basis. That was voted down by the taxi industry, and we were left with bringing a yearly report to the Taxi Advisory Committee with an increase in the by CPI for them to consider each year. We've been having delegations talks with the industry over the past 3 years, and there's been no want from the industry to increase the fee over that time. Staff are prepared to bring forward reports that will increase the CPI accordingly to what it should be, and then that rate would then come into effect May of 2018.
But I guess what I'm hearing from you is that we have been sympathetic to the industry by not by respecting their wishes not to put the fare increase up. So we really want to do it with them and not to them.
That is correct.
Okay. So I guess the question that needs to be asked by the industry is, if the taxpayer cannot be expected to absorb the loss, then is the increase of $40 unreasonable when you compare that to the loss that you may incur if the meter rate goes up? So would more people, in other words, would more people migrate from the taxi industry to Uber or to a rideshare and result in more of a loss than $40 representing the increase in from $4.10 to $4.50? You know, that's a hypothetical or so something to ponder, but okay, you've clarified for me. Thank you.
Honorable Way, James. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple of more questions for clarification. I would say that I imagine that the purpose of the increase is to cover administration costs at the city for the city to administer the whole the industry. Is that what the purpose of the increase?
Through the chair, if you're referring to the increase from the 410 to the 450, it was to offset the loss of the change of vehicle fee that we were dealing with, and that is primarily administrative in functions. So it is a cost of labor.
Okay, and when was the last time this increase, the last increase prior to this one? Was there an increase last year, the year before, or a few years back? Has that been a stable number, this 410? Has that been a fairly stable figure for a number of years?
Through the chair, the license fees for mobile licensing are increased yearly as of January 1st each year by the previous year's CPI. So all of the fees since 2014 have been increased by the CPI on a yearly basis. Mm-hmm. And that's all license fees for the mobile licensing.
And my understanding through the chair that license fees are basically the justification for them is to pay for the administration for you. Is that the purpose of the license fees?
That's correct. License fees are based on direct and indirect costs to the corporation for enforcement and administration. Okay.
Now now you raised another question that the other municipalities, their transfer fees before, they were around $1,500, $1,200 to $1,500, and we're charging $3,800. That seems to be quite a large figure. Was there a reason why we were charging so much for that particular transfer?
Through the chair, the license fee is, the transfer fee is based on the cost of a new license being issued to an individual. And that was the basis. When we issue a plate from the priority waiting list, that fee is $36.92 is what that individual pays for. And that's the cost of the administration of the priority waiting list, going through all of the administrative work that has to be done to determine those plates. And so that fee was equalized for the transfer fees as well.
So the last question, in order to try to help, is it possible to look at perhaps issuing a renewal license for maybe for 2-3 year period, if the industry is willing to pay, do a 2 or 3 year renewal fee, and they pay the $410, and if they want a yearly, they pay the $450. Is this something we could look at so we can help try to reduce the cost of administration?
So I appreciate that we're getting into what we could do in the future, but that's not what's on the table today. So James, I'm going to let you off the hook on that one and not be speculating.
Well, we could.
I know, but I appreciate that you want to have that conversation. You can reopen the whole issue if that's where we're going to go, because I sense there's a real desire to open this whole issue, and I don't have that motion in front of me. So I'm going to rule it is out of order based on what I have in front of me.
So, Madam Mayor, I appreciate what you're saying. So what I will say is that let's go with Councilor Fortini's motion for the time being, and let's look at other ways to streamline, refine, or to make it more efficient so that we can maintain that fee into the future. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Dillon.
So the question I was going to ask, I think the clerk has already given me the answer. So when I asked previously that if those could be absorbed into the transfer fee, so I think Mr. Fay had said that we'd have to reopen that. So hypothetically, if this doesn't pass and it stays at 410, where and how will the city recoup that $40 times however many renewals there are?
I think the quick answer to that would be that we wouldn't be able to recover that.
So you wouldn't take it from anywhere else?
No, it'd be a loss.
Okay. Councilor, are you done?
Yeah.
Councilor Wellens.
Yeah, just quickly, James. The way it stands right now, without the proposed motion, is our taxi cab industry for the city of Brampton, is it revenue neutral? So in other words, we're not making any money the way it stands right now. It's revenue neutral.
The budget for licensing enforcement is covering what we have for labor costs and administrative costs.
Okay. So, but if we do approve the motion, then we will be negative, revenue negative. It'll be costing the city.
That would be correct, and we're already seeing a $47,000 drop in that fee as it stood right now.
Okay, I just wanted clarification.
Thank you.
Councilor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm trying to get the numbers here. I'm trying to work them up, but I'm not doing a very good job here. $47,000 cost right now. If these two motions pass this time, what would the cost be on top of that to the municipality? Or is that still $47,000? I'm assuming it'd be a lot more.
Through the chair, it would be $58,113.
$58,113 total, including the CPI.
Through the chair, if the motion was to pass as presented, it would be that $58,000 number.
And that includes the $47,000 that we talked about. Okay. So that's what this motion would be asking the rest of the taxpayers to cover the costs for the taxi industry. That's what you'd be doing, which I'm assuming would I'm not going to say it's going to increase taxes, because it's a small portion of the whole budget, but you're asking the rest of the City of Brampton taxpayers to cover that cost in this motion. Okay, thank you.
Councilor Medeiros.
Thank you. Through the mayor. So the costs that we're talking about, are they employee hours? Is that what goes into the equation? Can you break out what these costs are?
Through the chair, the fees are based on direct and indirect costs to the corporation. So we look at legal fees, we look at the office fees, the heating fees, the square footage of our location. We look at every time an employee touches a file to deal with this, we're looking at that cost for recovery.
Through the chair, then potentially you'd be able to cost analysis everything we do at the corporation. So every transaction, everything we do, a staff person when walks in this door at City Hall, we could cost analysis everything he does. Is that correct?
I'm going to let Mr. Schlang answer that one.
Through you, Mayor, I don't think it's fair to James.
No.
Yeah, but what we try and do in most of our areas is show total cost of those services. In fact, you'll see in the budget this year, we're really allocating the total costs of all services. So in this case, James knows his business. He knows what he needs to recover to be cost neutral, and that's what he's telling
through the chair, we're not hiring specific. The staff that are there, everything depends on the transactions. So when we talk about the cost to the taxpayer, and I keep hearing that term from the councillors, and I just want to quantify exactly and look at the equation for the process. So if there's no processing, we're paying the staff the same, we're paying the same time, nothing changes. So recoup it or not recoup, our expense is the exact same, because what goes into this equation is staff hours, and then after you do your multiplication, your equation. But I would say that cost analysis, every business item we do here in the city, I would ask for the same cost analysis. So what does it cost for us to do the activities that we just talked about? Santa Claus Parade. I would ask about what we're doing for the remembrance. I would ask about every activity that we do here at the City Hall, if we do the cost analysis. So I just think that if we're talking about this cost analysis and trying to recoup, there's no money going out. There's no impact on the taxpayer. What we're talking about is some internal process, an internal equation that we apply what we find is value for the service. And I would beg to differ that value for the service, specifically when we're talking about livelihoods. People who are struggling right now, an industry which is under attack from an illegal industry. I just had a situation where someone I knew personally, their a significant other became an Uber driver overnight. So I think right now we have motions on the table. I appreciate, staff, what you're doing, but I just want to make it very clear when we have, people trying to look at the cost analysis. This is no really cost on the taxpayer. We're talking about an equation, which is an administrative process. So I'd like to go to the motion. I appreciate your time, and it's nothing with staff, but I think the taxi cab industry needs our support right now. Thank you.
Councillor Dillon.
Just one more time for clarification. When was the last time the fare was increased?
Through the chair, the last increase for the taxi industry was in 2013.
And so I think it's to the benefit of the taxi drivers if there's a fare increase, I'm assuming, something that they'd like. So the cost of keeping it at $410 is, I think it's $11,000, I believe you said?
It would be 11,000. It would.
So for them the taxi drivers to recoup that, what do you think if their loss would be for them to recoup that if they could have a fare increase?
So Councillor Dillon, I appreciate that you're trying to navigate this issue, but it's outside the framework of what I have in front of me to vote on. That is something that obviously you can bring back at a future taxi cab meeting, and I think Councillor Spovieri's indicated his desire to look at a longer-term renewal fee. That may be something you look at in the future. It's not what I have in front of me right now.
I'll leave it, but the reason why I'm trying to bring it up is because I think the taxi industry has, without argument, followed the rules for decades. And I think they've been hit really hard by an industry coming in that's not regulated, and it's hurt their pocketbook, it's hurt their, in their daily lives, hurt their families. And I think, I think it's fair to be asking these questions. I don't think it's out of the realm of the discussion we're having. It's simply trying to figure out where the city could, if they were to stay, move to 450, where the taxi drivers could recoup it. We're always talking about the city, but we also got to think about the taxi drivers who, again, without argument, been following the rules, and I think they've been really strict rules against them. So if you feel that I should leave the argument as is, I will, but I think it's a fair question as well. How much do we need to raise the fare for them to recoup their loss?
Okay, thank you. I don't know that we don't need to address that one. Thank you.
I think that's unfair that we're not able to ask this question and have him.
I think what you've done is you've asked the question.
I think it's unfair.
I appreciate that you think it's unfair. It's not the conversation we're having today based on the motions I have in front of me. Councillor Fortini.
Thank you, Madam. To the clerk, can we put that little equation back up,
The
please?
table?
If there's the table there. And thank you, James, for all the work, and I know you put in a hot spot here. This reminds me of a company that makes $10 million, and then they say they lost money because they only made 9. They make 10 again the following year. We know what we're losing, and like Councilor Madero says, well, how much money have we made in the past of 3,600 compared to other municipalities? We don't put that number up. So the difference that we end up taking all those years. So you gotta take the minus. If you run a business, I made 10 million, now I made 9, all of a sudden I say I lost $1 million. You still just made a little bit under.
I know you're probably going to rule me out of order here, but I'd love to have that conversation Councillor Dillon's talking about and letting the industry increase their fares. But I heard from 2 delegations that it's unfair that they can't do that. Why don't we let them do it? Councillor Dillon, I'd support a motion to reopen that and have some discussion on that. So, on letting them increase their fares to recover their cost.
So are you moving to reopen the whole issue?
No, I'm supporting Councillor Dillon to do that.
So I can move that.
So you have to put yourself on the board, otherwise I don't recognize you. Councillor Dillon, you're on the board.
So, Mr. Clerk, if we wanted to reopen the discussion on increasing the fares, pardon me?
So I believe...
So what would the process
Does this
be?
motion achieve that? Okay, so the clerk has put something together to help you.
Right.
Resolution number 310, 2017, of the Council of the City of Brampton be reopened for reconsideration with respects to parts 2 and 3 related to the proposed changes to the mobile licensing bylaw. Does that achieve that, what Councillor Dillon is asking for?
Through you, Madam Mayor, if Councillor Dillon's intent is, as he previously stated, is to reopen this fee from 3692 to 358.
No, I think
Sorry.
what he's talking about is the fees that taxi drivers, am I right?
Yeah.
That they would be able to raise their fares. So that doesn't... No.
Through you, Madam Mayor, this, what's before council is only in respect to the fees that the municipality charges for taxi-related matters. In terms of the fares that taxi cab drivers charge the public, staff have stated that they are set, they were in place, they were changed, I think, 2013, and there is, I think they can only be changed through council resolution going forward.
So you know what? I think we have a stalemate right now because my board's about to fill up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a 10-minute recess. I'm going to let people talk about what they want to put on the board. And when they come back, perhaps they'll have a clearer picture of what they want to do. So we're going to take a 10-minute recess.
We can just, we have the ability to
Okay, everybody, we're back from what turned into almost a 20-minute recess. So before I get to my board, I'm going to tell you that I have a new resolution that has been moved by Councillor Dillon, I assume, with regards to reconsideration. So Councillor Dillon. Ms. Provieri. Okay, so this is a motion to deal with reconsideration with respects to Part 2. That's the table. It relates to the proposed changes to the mobile licensing bylaw specifically related to taxi cab, accessible taxi cab owner, transfer, current, and proposed fee. I'm told by the clerk that this would be the route to go, because if you vote on the other two pieces, it would undo what this reconsideration motion would achieve. We need a 2/3 majority in order to waive procedure, and after we do that, then we would require a 2/3 vote on reopening for reconsideration. So, if we get there. Pardon me?
Well, I'm trying to get some clarification of what we would be.
So I just read it out to you. I'll read it again so everybody's clear. So the first vote would be to waive procedure. Second vote would be that the resolution number 310, 2017 of the Council of the City of Brampton be reopened for reconsideration with respects to Part 2. That is the table that appears on the screen except for one portion of it. Is that right, Mr. Clerk?
You want me to explain?
No, I'm going to let the clerk explain, and it relates to the proposed changes to the mobile licensing bylaw specifically related to taxi cab accessible, taxi owner, transfer, current, and proposed fee.
Through you, Madam Mayor, you are correct. So what the motion is proposing is a reconsideration of Resolution 310, which is on the screen, specifically Part 2, and I think to be correct, I think it is Part 3 as well.
It is Part 3?
Yes.
Okay.
And that decision was made by Council at its October 11th meeting, and that decision effectively was to approve the fee structure that is outlined in this table, save and except for this second last row, which is before Council today. And as the Mayor has pointed out, there are two 2/3 votes required. The first is to waive Council's procedure bylaw requirements, and then the second would be a 2/3 vote to reopen.
So, Councillor Dillon, just wait for a minute. So I'm going to give people, there are two routes we can go. We can open this and reconsider and start working on policy at a council meeting so we can approve it, or we can go ahead with the staff recommendations and still go back to the taxi cab committee and talk about their fees. So that option still exists. So I just want everybody to know it's not all or nothing. Those conversations can continue at other settings. It's not my preference to create policy at a council meeting. So now I will go to my list, speaking to the reconsideration. Yep. Perfect.
Whole issue back to the Taxi Cab Advisory Committee. All of the...
So in theory, you could, but right now, what I have in front of me is a reconsideration, and if that passes, then at that point, you could refer it all, but I'm dealing with the reconsideration which is in front of me right now. Is that right, Mr. Clerk?
But if we don't support the reconsideration, we could still refer it all back.
So at that point, if you don't support the reconsideration, then we're going to go to Councillor Fortini's motion, which speaks to the renewal fee and the CPI. Okay? So you'll be dealing with it at some point today. Have I clarified that properly, Mr. Fay?
That's correct, unless a motion of referral is moved during the debate on Councillor Fortini's two motions, which has not been placed.
Which hasn't happened yet. So let me just deal with what I have in front of me. Okay? Do you have enough clarification?
I don't know why I can't refer the notice for reconsideration.
Can I have one conversation going on here? I'm listening to Councillor Miles.
There's a motion to reconsider.
Yes.
I would like to refer, before the notice for reconsideration, why can't we refer it back to the Taxi Cab Advisory Committee to do what that's what we formed them to do in the first place, was to consider all of these issues and then bring it to Council.
Councillor Miles, with greatest of respect, this has been referred, and it's come back here with a recommendation from staff, and now it's up to us to make that decision. So we can refer it again, but it's not like a
But
decision didn't come from that committee already.
It's changed now. There's been discussion about changing number one. There's a discussion about increasing taxi cab fares.
So at the end of the day, things have passed, they've come back here, people want to reopen them and have another debate about policy. So all I can tell you is what I have in front of me, what you get to vote on, and what the flow chart of activities will occur.
Thank you,
Okay?
Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Councillor Dillon.
I just want to confirm with the clerk, and I guess for the discussion that I had, I guess for the information to council, what I was asking is that, number one, would the transfer fee that be reopened, and which I think, which does need 2/3 to reopen, and that the motion that I wanted to put forward was the 410, any loss to the city be absorbed in that transfer fee, so the 358 increases to whatever number it is. After discussion with members of the taxi industry, they said that right now the fare is not the issue with them per se, because if they increase the fare to recoup whatever the $40 is times however many renewals there are, Uber would just dip their own fare. So if they increase theirs,
So through you.
and I'm just getting to the point what I want to.
Madam Mayor, we are now debating the merits of something that has not yet been reopened. Council's procedural rules are very clear. Council has made a decision on that first row on October 11th. If this council wishes to reconsider that decision, it needs to deal with the reconsideration provisions and the 2/3 votes. We should not be discussing what happens after that until council has made a decision to reopen or not.
So the question I have is this, though, that reopening it, when we spoke about, I'm just trying to let them know why I'm trying to get it reopened.
So I think it's been really clear. I think you've explained it about 3 times. I don't think anybody here doesn't understand that you're really
Does
trying to solve the problem.
everybody understand?
Okay, I really appreciate it. Is there any other clarification you need?
So is, Mr. Clerk, the motion that I was referring to for the cost to be offset, is that submitted, that be put forward after this gets 2/3, or is that included in this motion that you wrote up now?
Through you, Madam Chair, if the reconsideration motion carries, all council is doing is reopening that first row,
Yes.
and then what to do with that first row will be the subject of subsequent
Okay,
debate.
so we got to get it reopened first. Fair enough.
Okay.
So the reason why through you, Madam Mayor, just very quickly, and I know I explained it, but just wanted to be clear, so just wanted to let council know why I wanted to reopen it, what the subsequent motion would be.
Thank you. Councillor Moore.
Well, I was on the board from prior
Before,
to.
you don't want to be on? Okay. Thank you, Councillor Gibson.
Not on a reconsideration.
No, okay. Councillor Gibson?
Yeah, this is not what I had in mind when I said I would support talking about increasing their fare fees. So I'm going to vote against this because, and if this fails, I will put a motion on the floor that we request or refer back to the taxi cab industry the consideration of them increasing their fares to cover the cost. We've heard from this delegation, and we heard last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, from another delegation, that they haven't had an increase in 5 years now. It'd be 5 years next year. Well, then they can recover their cost with an increase. I understand they may not want to do that, but at the same time, I don't want to be asking the rest of the city to cover these costs. And everything we do, there's a cost recovery in. So I'll vote against this. That's not what I had in mind when I said I would support Councillor Dillon's motion to increase their fees, or ask them to increase their fees. So I'll put a motion on that if this fails to do that.
I got about 4 motions before we get there.
Well, if it has to fail, before
I know,
I put mine
I know.
on. So.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Gibson. We are now at the point where we decide by 2/3 whether we waive procedure. Is that right, Mr. Clerk? Okay. So all those in favor of waiving procedure? I believe that fails. Okay. So that means the resolution for reconsideration fails. The only motions we have now are moved by Councillor Fortini and seconded by Councillor Spovieri with regards to the 410 to 450 proposed increase for the renewal fee. Councillor Miles, speaking to the motion.
I'd like to refer the whole issue back to the Taxi Cab Advisory Committee, including a potential or a request for a fare increase, and then have the whole thing come back to council with the recommendation.
Can you define whole thing?
So at the end of the day, I'm not actually going to
report.
allow conversation to go between
Okay.
council members. If you want to go through the chair, you're welcome to do that. Councillor Miles, are you suggesting that both the renewal fee and the CPI both be referred back to
Yes.
the taxi cab committee?
Yes, including the discussion that's been raised here and by the taxi cab industry about a fare increase.
Okay.
Send it back.
So I believe a referral is not, it's debatable, right?
That's what I said before, Councillor
Okay,
Gibbs.
so Councillor Miles, you've spoken to the referral, both issues. Councillor Spovieri, speaking to the referral.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I support the referral, but they should also be looking at the transfer fees as part of the options in the exercise. So look at where they want to make the adjustments to make up the shortfall.
So I appreciate that. The only things we're going to refer back to them are these two issues right now.
So
Okay, just so you know, and if you feel strongly about it, you should go to the taxi cab committee and have that conversation. All right?
Okay.
Councillor Moore.
As I mentioned previously, staff are in the middle of preparing their budget. I would like to know what the impact is or the consequences of referring this back for more conversation on the, is it $11,000? Sorry? It's the 47? $14,000. So, okay. So, I'm not going to say it's negligible, but referring it back so that they can have a conversation, in my opinion, on the matter of the 410 to the 450, because the rest has already been passed by council. And whether or not they want to add their position on increasing the fares. It's one thing to have the delegations come here today and speak to it, but in terms of a formal position from the taxi cab committee on whether or not they want to increase their fares, their meter fares or not. Because I think that's the only thing that is outstanding at this point. How does the industry or the drivers recoup the $40? So I'll support your referral motion, Councillor Miles.
Okay. Councillor Dillon. I think you're my last speaker.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I support the referral.
Okay, terrific. All right, everybody's playing well. So it's moved by Councillor Miles, I think seconded by Councillor Spovieri, that the recommendation number CW 384, 2017, and the last motions related to the recommendation be referred back to the Taxi Cab Advisory Committee for further consideration. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay. All right, our next item of business is the added item. This is item 7.1. This is the motion on healthcare. Council, I believe a hard copy was distributed to you earlier in the meeting, but I believe the clerk also has a motion that is moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Moore. Essentially, it is a more formalized road map to where we want to go as a city with regards to healthcare. As many of you know, I put out an open letter last Friday with regards to healthcare and some of the concerns that I had with regards to Brampton Civic, Bill Memorial Center for Integrated Health and Wellness, and the status of our third hospital. So I think at a previous committee meeting, there was a great interest by this council to accelerate the conversations we're having with regards to the third healthcare site. And we actually haven't put anything formally in writing from this council. So this is an attempt to put Brampton on the record to provide some clarity for our staff that this is a priority for us to be strong advocates for better healthcare for our residents and to initiate that search for that third hospital site to try and accelerate it and to demonstrate to the province our seriousness in being advocates for our residents on the healthcare file. So happy to go to the speakers list, and I believe the motion is there in case you have questions. Councillor Spovieri.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I appreciate the motion and the timing. There's one issue I'd like to just explore. From my understanding, and I've experienced this myself. Last year, I had to take my mother when she was visiting for New Year's Eve to Brampton Hospital for emergency, and we ended up waiting 12 hours. My mother was 95 years old at the time, and I tell you, it was was not a nice experience waiting for 12 hours on Christmas Eve in the emergency. Now, my understanding is that the Brampton Hospital or Brampton Civic probably has one of the longest waiting times in the province when it comes to emergency service. And if what my belief is correct, and I don't know whether anybody here can verify that or not, but that's what my understanding is. I believe that there should be some stronger words in the resolution saying that there's an urgent need now to have increased service at the emergency in Brampton because I do believe we have the worst record or the worst service. So if we can add that kind of urgency and point out that we're probably Brampton has the worst service in emergency in the province, perhaps that will add a little bit more. It may have a bit more. The province or the minister may, and I'm sure they know. I'm sure they know what's going on here, but at least we can let them know that we know, and we need some action quickly, quick action here to resolve this problem. So if we can look at adding some more words there about the urgent need to have better service in the emergency section here, and I hear people driving to Orangeville. I hear people driving to Georgetown, so that they don't have to wait for hours and hours and hours at the Brampton Civic. So, Madam Mayor, I wonder if we can do something.
So, Councillor Spovieri, I just want you to know that this motion was crafted with the assistance and of our staff, particularly, but also with the work with the LHIN and the hospital. This is language that they believe will get us action. And to be honest, I don't know that I want to wordsmith it anymore. I think that the letter that I sent last week certainly has caused a flurry down at Queen's Park. So I believe this gets us what we need. Certainly, I don't know that changing a word here or there will make. I would say that this is acceptable for the healthcare professionals. And
let's hear what the response.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Miles.
Wow. I think it's time that we started talking very openly and very honestly with the community about healthcare. And what I'm concerned about is the information that Andrea Horvath, in fact, had included in that she'd received through Freedom of Information in regards to healthcare in the city of Brampton. And again, it shows that Brampton is not being served to the same, that the needs of our community are not being addressed by the province of Ontario. From my understanding from that briefing note is that today, where we are right here and now, William Osler needs an infusion of $30 million just to meet existing healthcare needs and demands today. And that is to fully fund William Osler, the beds in William Osler that haven't been funded, and to increase the capacity at the new hospital. because our new hospital is already serving 20,000 more people than what the province has funded it to handle. So that's the Peel Memorial site. William Osler's site, and you know, we all have our horror stories about aging parents in the halls of William Osler. I know Councillor Moore recently experienced this. I too experienced it with my mother, to the point that I refused her being allowed to be transferred to William Osler, for her to lay in a hallway for 3 or 4 days. It's just not acceptable. But from what I understand, there have been 6 code gridlocks in the first few months of this year at William Osler. Code gridlock means there's no more capacity at William Osler. So where do they go? And what that means is that our community, our residents, are laying in the hallways at William Osler. They're allowed to lay there for up to 4 days. During the planning vision of with Andrea's team, talking to a seniors group, they too were sharing experiences. One gentleman was telling me about the 3 days that he laid in the hallway at William Osler. So when we went to AMO 2 years ago, we met, the hospital staff came and met with us, and we met with the minister about fully funding the beds at William Osler. We haven't had a response. So a third hospital is important, and the municipality can ensure that the land is set aside. But we need funding now, and we need funding for the 2 hospitals that exist that aren't funded, and we need the expansion of the second hospital. So I think Councillor Spovieri has said we need stronger language. I think we need stronger language. Right now, the city of Brampton has about 650,000 people in our community. Mississauga has 721. They have over twice the amount of beds that we have. We have 600 beds. They have 1,200 beds in 2 full hospitals. So, you know what? If we don't stand up and advocate for our community and start talking about the reality, and I appreciate the mayor started the conversation, but this conversation has to continue, and it has to continue by us, and we have to stand up and advocate for what's right for our community. People lying in a hallway for 4 days is not acceptable. And not fully funding William Osler since 10 years. 10 years we're still asking for full funding for that hospital, and we don't have it. So $30 million is needed right now to just meet existing needs. And what are we finding out from our data? I keep talking about it because we can't ignore what's happening in Brampton. We're a high-growth municipality. 47 new people are coming to the region of Peel every day by our latest accounts at the region of Peel. About 40 of them are settling in the city of Brampton, and our population is will age 143% in the next 20 years. So the demand is going to increase. So the mayor's bang on. We got to bring it to the attention of the province. We need to set aside the land, but what are we doing about now? What are we doing about now? We need to use some of the information that Andrea Horvath managed to bring public and talk about the fact that Brampton has half of the hospital beds of Mississauga, and that William Osler needs $30 million to meet existing needs, and that our new hospital is already seeing 20,000 more people today than it's funded for. And I believe it's closing its doors at 10 o'clock because that's what it's funded to do. That's the reality. So I think we need to have representatives from our hospital come and talk to us. I think we need to get the information that we as a council need, the actual information about what's happening. We all have our experiences. Can you imagine, I'll get upset, can you imagine anything worse than having someone you love laying in that hallway? Can you imagine? Can you imagine? And do you know what? For seniors, they won't even change them because there's nowhere to change them. There's no privacy. So if a senior is laying in their own excrement, they can't be changed because there's nowhere private to do it. That's the reality in our community, in our city. It's terrible. It's terrible, and we've all seen it. I know Councillor Moore can tell her own story of recently where her father, because of code gridlock, was transferred, I don't know how many times, to different hospitals. It's just not acceptable. And we've been, Brampton's a nice guy. We always say nice things. But you know what? I don't know what to do with this. It's just not acceptable that we continue to be told by the province of Ontario, you're a high-growth municipality, you have to grow, and we're growing, and yet we're falling behind in our service delivery. I haven't yet seen the report, Madam Mayor. I would like to see it, of United Way that you talked about, the growing poverty in our community. My God, what are we doing? What are we doing? We're the governing body. We're responsible to all these people. And you look at what is happening when it comes to, what is more important than knowing if someone that you care about gets sick or is in an accident? What is more important than knowing that they're going to get the health care they need? And we have absolutely no assurance that that's going to happen. In fact, we probably can feel pretty confident that that's not going to happen because of the amount of... Can you imagine if your child was in an accident and they go to the hospital? It's code gridlock? I can't. I can't imagine one of my grandkids getting sick and not being able to get the attention that they need at the hospital. Like, this is so personal. This is so personal, and we definitely have to talk about it. So, Madam Mayor, I'm glad you started this conversation, but we need to start telling our public, and they need to be able to talk about the statistics and the information that we are aware of when it comes to William Osler Health System and the City of Brampton. So we can do our part. We can make sure that the land is going to be there. But my God, let's get the funding for our other hospitals so we get this ball moving. It's just a very sad situation that we face here when we talk about this after all of the debates and that we have done. Anyway, that's my emotional outburst for today.
Thank you. Councillor Moore.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I'm going to make a suggestion, and I spoke to you just before council started today, that while I am, I guess for the clerk's purposes, the official seconder of the motion, I think all members of council would like to sign the motion, because I think we all feel very strongly about it. We certainly did that back in the day when council made the resolution and entered into the MOU to commit $60 million. At the time, the province was talking about a $600 million Peel Memorial Hospital redevelopment, and the council of the day, and I'm proud to say I was part of that, and I know that Madam Mayor, as our MPP at the time, certainly was helpful in terms of the messaging to the community. It was tough to say to our taxpayers that we were going to put a 1% healthcare levy on our tax bill in order to raise the $60 million local share to leverage a decision from the province to move ahead with that project. The reason why 60 million was because initially they talked about the $600 million project. At the end, they split it into 2 phases and built a $400 million, and we handed a check over for $40 million of money that we had already collected for that phase 1. What I like about the motion is that it reminds our taxpayers that they're still paying it. Not that we want to rub that in, but it was the right thing to do. And that I believe we satisfy the 60 million next year or shortly thereafter. So we're continuing to collect $20 million. I think it's good to remind the taxpayers, number one, and because many may have moved to the city and not been part of the debate at the time that took place. But it's also a reminder to the province that as a municipal council, we made the tough decision back then, and we remain committed to that. So the reference to the MOU in here, I think, is incredibly important for messaging. I know I've met with Scott McLeod, and our staff have as well, to plan for the 3rd hospital. And we can do all kinds of things locally about that. But at the end of the day, the province needs to include in their planning horizon a 3rd hospital. So until the provincial documents actually talk about a 3rd hospital for the city of Brampton, we can talk about it all we want locally. But I think the resolution certainly sends a message in terms of that. And I know that Scott McLeod at the LIN really needs to push the province with our help and assistance to get that language into the provincial planning documents. So it does that as well. Councillor Miles has made reference to my father's recent stay in the hospital. And it's a really interesting one because he ended up initially at the urgent care at Peel Memorial. And I know we've all got a story to tell, but this tells you that where some of the breakdowns are in terms of health care in our community. So he goes to urgent care at Peel Memorial. He's determined to be high acuity, but he can only stay there so long because they close their doors at 10 o'clock at night. They couldn't send him to Brampton Civic because they were in gridlock. They had over 50 patients sitting in hallways waiting for beds. So, and coincidentally, that was the day that Andrea Horvath visited. I thought that was interesting. But, so they transferred him by paramedic service, which is more a local cost than a provincial, to EGH. And then when there was room at Brampton Civic, the paramedic services again transferred him to Brampton Civic. So the healthcare system, or dollars, were paying, but a lot of those dollars were local, when really there should be some beds at Peel Memorial for those, so that you're not transferring, seniors or anybody that's in that fragile condition twice in 4 days when it really should be unnecessary. I will say, Madam Mayor, when you were at the province, you were probably the strongest champion for health care in Peel, and in Brampton. I'm convinced that the decision to close Peel Memorial, we probably wish they hadn't decommissioned it at the time, but I'm sure that the province has a process for that. But you were the strongest voice that Brampton ever had for health care in our community. Your departure from the province has left a huge void because our current MPPs have not picked up the sword and continued the fight. And we really need them to step up to the plate, regardless of what they feel as in terms of perhaps their relationship with City Council. They're their residents too. They got elected to represent this community and the taxpayers and those people who desperately need the same level of health care that other communities are enjoying across this province. So this is, I applaud you for bringing this forward. Thank you for your continued advocacy for health care in the community and for giving us an opportunity to remind our taxpayers that this council is solidly behind improvements. much-needed and deserved investment in healthcare. Thank you.
Thank you for your kind words. Councillor Dillon.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I appreciate the motion, and I think everybody here has a story to tell about a particular incident or scare that they had at the hospital. And so, I've been able to read whatever's in the paper, and I think that a lot of this is because of some of the information we read in the media. But I don't know who I'm asking now. I just have a couple questions. Perhaps the mayor could even answer. Like, the province has added 6 beds, I believe. But on what basis was the 6 made? Like, why wasn't it higher? What was their what was the reasoning behind it? Does anybody?
So, Councillor Dillon, I'm not equipped to answer that question, but I think it's a more complex analysis as to how the beds, I believe it was as a result of responding to the surge that the Ministry of Health anticipates with the flu season. But I think Councillor Miles talked about this earlier. We might want to invite somebody from the LIN to come and explain, and perhaps some other professionals to come and speak to us, and you can ask those questions then.
I think we got a lot of questions, or I have a lot of questions, certainly, just to get myself some more information. I think a lot of my colleagues would as well, and these are, I don't know if the next questions are more commentary than questions, but the question is, why did we get to this point? I receive many emails and complaints about the hospital, and I usually direct them towards their MPP. I believe because obviously because that's the level of government that's responsible for healthcare. And I'm just throwing this question in there. Do we need to, for provincial issues? Does it come to this that we have to, does it have to come to council all the time? And so for us to get some stuff done in Brampton. And so I guess that's the disappointing part, that it had to come to this. So, I'd like to see more. I'd like to see, and I'm trying to navigate my words correctly, but I'd like to see, more information given to the MPPs, whether it's from the residents or from council, because I don't know if this has been ignored or if this is just a matter of funding, but it's definitely become a really big issue for our city. And so perhaps if we can have some discussions with residents and with our MPPs and in council as well, because it's sad to get to this point, but I do thank the mayor for putting this forward, and I think it's definitely something urgent in nature right now. Thank you.
Councillor Bowman.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I think that this is very well written. I thank you for writing this. Councillor Miles and Councillor Moore, you remain extremely well composed for the experiences that you've had just in the last little while. And I find it very good that you remain composed, because I sit here and I'm getting ticked off more and more and more every bloody time we talk about hospitals. This has been an issue in previous council. It's been an issue this council. It's been an issue, we've brought it to the forefront many times. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. The province has, I'm not going to say ignored us. I would have been embarrassed, quite honestly, if I was the minister and had to come and say, Brampton, we're giving you 6 beds during flu season. I mean, 1% of the 608 beds we currently have. To be brutally honest, Peel Memorial is an urgent care center. There are no beds there. It is not a hospital. So when we talk about getting a 3rd hospital, we need a 2nd hospital. We need to equip Peel Memorial to be our 2nd hospital before we start talking about putting land away for a third hospital. You know, the province came forward and told us such things as we have to, provide basement apartments so that we have housing for low-income individuals, and that's fantastic. We have a lot of individuals that need that. But we've got to remember, too, that when all these low-income individuals are moving into the basement apartments, and majority of them are illegal, I mean, we're not getting credit at the region for all these people who are living here. We're not getting credit at the province for these people who live here. You know, how many people do we have? 60,000, 70,000 living in basement apartments that we should be getting fair funding for in all aspects for everything, whether it be social, whether it be doctors, whether it be hospitals. And we're just not getting it. So, I mean, this is fantastic, but I've asked in this council before to have our MPs come and talk to us. MPPs, sorry. Thank you, Councillor Dillon. Come and talk to us about this, and it hasn't happened. So this is good. I know that we have to approach this in a delicate fashion, but you know what? The time for delicate fashion, I think, has passed, and unless we do something, unless we tell them something, unless we make demands of them, I'm not sure how well we're going to be respected or responded to in this community. So, again, I really appreciate this, and I appreciate that it caused a flurry in downtown, but we need more than that. We need action. We need action now, and we need someone to tell us something is going to happen, and this is the date it's going to happen by. So those are just my comments, but again, thank you for putting this forward.
Okay. Councillor Willens.
Thank you very much through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, thank you, and also Councillor Moore for seconding it and suggesting that we all sign it, because it looks like it's pretty passionate from all members of council. I'm going to go full circle here. Back in 1959, the Peel Memorial Hospital then lost its accreditation as a hospital. They went to the community. The community came together. They built the Peel Memorial that we knew. Now we're back. The reason they closed it because there was patients in the hallways. There was nurses working out of closets. There were all their secretaries. They were working in closets. They closed the hospital for these reasons. We're back at that, full circle, back at William Ulster now. So this is a great motion, but I agree with all the other councillors. We got to keep pushing for more funding in, because our community came together to build the new Peel Memorial. It was our community. Yeah, the province gave the structure, but we had to fit and furnish. We had to put all the equipment. So it was us that came together again as a community to build a hospital or an urgent care center, as Councillor Bowman put it. But they did it in 1960 or 1959 when they built the old, when the community came together. It's about time the province starts stepping up a bit more and getting us more than what we're getting from them. But this is a great motion, and I support it 100%. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Miles, for your passion at the beginning of all this, and I want to thank Councillor Bowman for pointing out the very obvious that's been going on. I mean, this is not new. This motion is not new, really. I appreciate it's here today, and I appreciate that it gives us, again, an opportunity to speak out. Because we've done this before many times over the years. I think every council has said something to the province, to the ministers, and not just this Liberal, but I mean the Conservatives too. I don't recall whether we did it when the NDP were in, but I do recall doing it with the Conservatives during the first initial discussions on Peel Memorial Hospital, and then the Liberals. And it makes me angry, as Councillor Bowman said. It makes me very angry that we do seem to be ignored. And, you know, we need to do something more than just this motion. This motion's nice. It's great. But it's not different. It really isn't. We've done it before. So we can get ignored again, just like that. We need to do something different. I'm not sure what that different looks like. But, you know, when things get passionate to residents, they come out, and they come out in droves. We've seen that here, this term of council, on certain things. And we need, I think, to be the leader, I guess, the catalyst of banding our residents together on this. Because, you know, I'm going to call out our MPPs. I don't know what they're doing. I really don't. I haven't heard anything from them. All I know is I keep hearing from residents, and I keep saying to residents, we can be advocates, but we don't have the final say on any of this. This is the province. The last term of council, or the term before, I can't remember, stepped up to the plate and did something, and we put out $60 million, and we took some heat for that, but it was the right, as Council Moore said, it was the right thing to do, and it got us what's there today, what Peel Memorial is there today. Not a full hospital, but it got us something. And had we not done that, we wouldn't have got that. It wouldn't be there today. I'm convinced, because I sat in a committee chaired by Terry Miller, where our first initial meeting, we had to deal with a motion that was going to sell the property. So there was nothing going to be there. So unless we can have all this discussion, and I'm just as guilty as the rest of us here as we're speaking passionately about this, but we need to look over our staff and say, help us build a campaign to get the residents of Brampton angry. And let's go after who makes the final decisions on this. And I'm not talking about just going after the Liberals who are in power right now. But Andrea Horvath within town dug some things out that maybe others should have, and pointed out some real very critical things. We're in a crisis right now in healthcare in Brampton. We really are. So let's put a campaign together, band our residents together, storm down to Queen's Park, call every MPP out that isn't speaking up on this, because I'm not sure what they are. Maybe they are. Maybe they're doing their best. I don't know. But I'm not hearing it, and I don't think the residents are hearing it. So you're exactly right. We should be hearing what they're doing. It's nice that I get a newsletter every once in a while from an MPP who has these little announcements of and ribbon cuttings that are going on. But really, does that all mean anything when we can't get good health care in Brampton? When we hear some of these stories, I don't have a story, thank goodness. I can give my story about how my knee replacement went at Peel Memorial, but I don't, or Brampton Civic, but I don't blame Brampton Civic for that. But we need to do more than just this. This is good, but I'm going to look over at staff and say, what can staff do to help us band together the residents of Brampton to start stamping their feet, start doing what Hazel McCallion used to do. If you don't give us what we want, we're coming after you. I've never heard that. That was one of the best lines I've ever heard her say.
That's a pretty good impersonation.
Yeah.
Mr. Schlang?
Thank you, Mayor. I just thought that this motion is timely because the new CEO is meeting with staff at the end of this month of William Osler. We never had the chance to meet yet. There's been a gap in CEOs. We have met with the Lynn before, so I think partnering with the three, we can develop that game plan. But it starts to give us direction for what you said, Councillor, to do things differently. This isn't the first time I've sent buses to Queen's Park with thousands of residents over a hospital. Actually, it's been 3 times in my career. So we can do quite something different, but I thought we should at least, what this motion says, get staff talking to William Osler and Lynn and see how we could do that effectively. But we're ready to do something different. I would have to bring a work plan here because, as always, this is a download from the province to local staff. We're not really staffed for this, so we have to be ready for it and get your approval. But we're ready to do something different with council's blessing.
Well, thank you for that. It sounds like we had the right person in place. I didn't know that you had done that before, Harry. So thank you very much. But I want to be very clear here. I'm not talking about just going after the Liberals that are in power right now. There's an election coming up. And we need solid commitments from the other parties about what they're going to do should they get elected. Because we can get a commitment, we might get a commitment, we might even get another ribbon cutting, before the next election, because that seems to be the talk of the day now, is just doing little ribbon cuttings and throwing money all over the place. That's my dig. But, you know, what are the Conservatives going to do? What are the NDP going to do? What's the other parties going to do for us? Andrea Horvath was in town. She made some passionate commitment, I think. I'm not quite sure what her commitments were, but that's my fault. I haven't looked into that deeply yet. Well, let's get some commitments from them, too. And then, you know what? Share that with our residents. So when they go to the polls next year, I'm assuming it's going to be in the spring, early in the spring, then they're up to date. And if they're not getting it from the parties, they'll get it from us. Saying, here's what I'm not asking us to commit to any party, but I think we owe it to our residents to at least try to advocate the best we can for them. And right now, what we're doing isn't good enough. It's not getting us the action we need. Great, thank you.
Thank you, Council. If we could just take a short recess in saying hello to Mr. Bill Burrell, who has joined us. He's been patiently waiting and listening to our conversation about the hospital, but when a veteran of his stature comes into our council chambers, I think we should stop and say thank you, and we're glad you're here. You've become kind of a rock star because you're on the banners now outside. So we're glad to see you. We want to thank you for coming. And we enjoyed the video, and we look forward to seeing you on Remembrance Day. We know you'll be there.
Madam Mayor, Brampton Council, it's an honor, privilege, and a long time coming. I was born and raised in this town in 1926, in the house I'm living in now, my grandpa's house. There's not many people in Brampton that say that. I'm living there now all alone. I've lost a son, a wife, but I'm still here. 72 Elizabeth Street. That house was built in 1914. Two of them, at the end of Craig Street. I went to McHugh School. The principal lived in the house beside me. Two houses at the end of Craig Street. When I was a kid, there was a picket fence from that driveway to Wellington Street to look after the beautiful houses on Main. They all had orchards, and I knew where the good ones were. Even though there was a picket fence, we could pull the bottom of them out and go in, and you'd be surprised what we would get. Nice houses and people on Main Street. And of course, now, when I meet somebody, I say, my name is Billy, and I'm born and raised in Brampton. But I'm not the Brampton Billy you should know. And they say, oh, who's that? I said, none other than the former Premier William Davis. He lives down Main Street in a house his father built. I live down behind in the house my grandfather built. And there's not a nicer neighbor in town than Billy Davis. And when he wrote that book, the guy on talent, he wrote it, but Billy would. He brought the first copy around to my house, and we sat and chatted for about 3 hours. He says, you know, Bill, when I was the boss from Port Credit to Orangeville. One man. Now, I said, yeah, we've got 5 of them around our own now, Billy. He said, yeah, but it was a great night. Boss from Port Credit.
So, Bill, you look really magnificent. Maybe we can honor your presence today by taking a picture with you. Do you mind if we do that? Can we take a picture with you? Because you look pretty handsome.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, my hearing is gone.
Can we take a picture with you? Can council take a picture? We'll come down.
Working too good. I'll have to speak to Veterans Affairs. Oh.
Okay. Is that okay? Is that okay?
Okay. I'm not bashful.
What's the easiest place
You look pretty snazzy in your uniform, so.
What's that?
You look really snazzy in your uniform. So how do we, can you want to turn around?
You stand here and we all stand here.
Just turn around. Try not to run us over. We still got more council meeting to do.
Yeah, reverse.
See, initial for this.
Ask me if you shall receive. So, you turn that way, and then we go back to right in there. Is that okay? Can you turn, just turn that way. You're facing that way. Oh, no, it's facing us. No, you have to do a 6-point turn.
I can.
Can you do a 3-point turn? Does this turn? You guys do. Yeah. And just come over here a bit more. Come over here a bit more. Just turn over. And then if you can back up, turn the other way, back up. Yes. I know. Put it reversing. We'll turn the wheel this way, we'll back right. There you go.
Get the hell out of here.
Back up now, we're all set. Now we're taking a picture, Bill. Here we go. There you go.
I'm bad.
Yeah, since when? Oh, there you go. Okay, he's good, he's good. He's good. Everybody gather around.
Brampton got mail delivered in February 1948. Carriers twice a day and once on Saturday. Wow. The last month.
Councilor Dillon, can you just go beside each
Don't forget this is the flower town of Brampton, the Dale Estate, worldwide known.
Perfect. Can everyone look here?
Used to have a rose on the bridge over Main Street North. Here's the road.
Perfect.
Here's our official reason.
Hey, hey.
The guy with the flash.
Hey, Bill. Excited.
Hi. How you doing?
He did your video with you.
Hey?
He was on your video.
Dave, that video.
Did you see me, my
Thank you.
pancake?
Members of council, for Dave, that video.
I understand it was on Facebook.
It's 52,000 people that watched it.
I watched it. They were monitoring. They were watching.
That's what you're famous now.
I think that's. Whenever I see him, he gives me his card and gives me his autograph.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. Snowy Owl Squadron. You're right, I'm sure. The video just showed you. But I don't want to get into the video. So I just showed it. See it yet? No, I just showed you. I did. He said 83 and 9 guys. I think you want to. Thank you, Bill.
Hey, my luck, do you want?
I wish that they were all a little bit shorter because I can't hit those. I know. My mother's
They're shook up. Keep singing. Keep singing.
Why did we agree?
Okay, people, that was a nice reprieve. We have 4 more speakers, and the sooner you get done, the sooner you get to have lunch. So I'm assuming that'll help people along. Councillor Miles, you're my next speaker.
Well, I'm just wondering if anybody's advocating for Bill to make sure that he's getting home care and whatever he needs.
You'd have to add that to the agenda.
Okay. So, Madam Mayor, I know that you've done a lot of work on this motion. I do have a suggestion for a friendly amendment, and that would be in the area where it says, therefore be it resolved that. I would like to suggest that we add in there that the Government of Ontario immediately approve increased operating dollars to fully fund Brampton Civic and approved increased operating dollars to fully fund Brampton Civic and Phase 1 of Peel Memorial Hospital, and further then to get in the planning of the third one. So I've written it out. I'll give it to the clerk, but to me the fully funding the hospital has to be the number 1 priority.
Okay, I'll go to my speakers list. Councillor Medeiros.
Just quickly, Madam Mayor, I guess similar to the council, thank you for bringing this forward, and I agree with a lot of the comments which has been expressed. I guess one of the things that comes to mind in this call for action for healthcare, it really, one end is what the province can do, but certainly here at the city, there is responsibility in what we can do regarding healthcare. So when we go back to decisions and how we plan our community, building healthy communities, how we collaborate with the region, so all the preventative measures. So, I think this call for action has to include, where's our skin in the game? And certainly advocating on one side, but you also have to, walk the talk. And walking the talk is, I've been around this table and we've made planning decisions which go against building healthy communities. And this has to be, and hopefully with the planning vision that we're building, this has to be that discipline that we have to apply as a municipality to really say, yes, there's that aspect of it, but there's also the preventative aspect. And we have to work towards that as well. And this is where I think that call for action should, be at this council as well. And really walk the talk and what we're talking about, the healthcare that's impacting our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Spobieri.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I totally agree with Councillor Medeiros about the preventative side. I think I was just listening to the news the other day about how much the province is going to be spending on pharmaceuticals. It's just going up dramatically. And obviously, the province is having a hard time covering the bills. The last I heard, that 50% of their budget goes towards health care, maybe even more now, and it's increasing all the time. And so we need to have promote more better healthy living. And I don't want to bring up fluoridation here, but that's one of the ones that I think we could do without, Councillor. But to stick to this topic, Madam Mayor, since staff now will be actually getting involved in helping us out, I think it would really be beneficial to bring us the stats, the provincial stats about all the various cities, how they're served, both in beds and response time, or the waiting times in the hospitals. So if we can have that before us, and we see that Brampton is at the top of the list, and we can go to our MPPs and say, hey, guys, are you aware that we're the worst in the province, and what are you doing about it? Why are you not advocating for our city to have better health service? And maybe the MPPs don't even know what the situation here is in Brampton. They have other matters to deal with, and so I think having the stats before us would really be beneficial, and perhaps staff can bring that to us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Moore.
Thank you. Councillor Medeiros, I'm going to remind you of those comments when we're dealing with some difficult planning applications, because I think your words were music to the ears of our new planning commissioner, because it's one thing to talk about sustainable communities and intensification and livable communities, but when we're trying to change the landscape of some of our neighborhoods, we get a lot of pushback, and it means that we do have to stand strong, knowing that we're making the right decision for the future of our city. I do want to just sort of caution, we talk about health care, and really what we're talking about is the funding of health care. Because I will tell you, I told you about my dad's story, but without, I want to say at the outset that he received absolutely exceptional care at both at Peel Memorial, at Etobicoke General, and at Brampton Civic. So it's important to separate the care that patients receive when they're in those hospitals from the investment that allows them to work in an environment where they're able to do that. So I think it's important to do, separate those two issues, because it's the people versus the bricks and mortar in many cases. And to our CAO, when you organize the bus trip to Queen's Park, don't look to your left there, because Alex doesn't have any Brampton buses available. We learned yesterday that they are filled to capacity. We don't know how we're going to have enough buses to put on the road to manage the increased growth because of our very popular and successful public transit system here in the city. So you may have to look at Parkinson's coach lines or stock school buses or something, but Alex has no buses for you. Thank you.
So that concludes my list, and I want to reiterate, Councillor Moore, I'm glad you mentioned what you did at the end, because I think, not about the buses, but the fact that one of the things that I spoke about in my open letter was the fact that we have a great facility, and we have absolutely the best, most truly caring staff in those buildings, whether they're doctors or nurse or staff or volunteers. They're honestly trying to do their best, but it's clear to me that they need additional resources, and I worry about them being able to sustain the pace, considering the kind of growth that we have and the kind of growth that we foresee on the horizon. So I'm glad you mentioned that. So, Council, we have an amendment, which I see as a completely friendly amendment to the existing motion. It's moved by myself, seconded by everybody else on Council who's here today, and I believe a recorded vote is in order. So, Mr. Clerk, if you could take a recorded vote on this motion.
Recorded vote's been requested on the motion on the screen as amended. All in favor, please stand to be counted. Showing in favor is, Councillor Miles, Councillor Fortini, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Medeiros, Mayor Jeffrey, Councillor Dillon, Councillor Sprovieri, Councillor Willens, Councillor Moore, and Councillor Gibson. Madam Mayor, that motion carries unanimously 10-0.
Thank you, Council. So I'm going to call a recess. We'll come back to item 8. Is it 8.1? That was already in. Okay, so we'll be coming back to the rest of our agenda at 1:15.